I'm going to show you how to set up from scratch an early R129 mono wiper setup. I'm not going to cover removing from the car. I'm not going to cover refurbishing it, so to speak, particularly because I think that's been well covered before. This fault was incorrectly diagnosed initially as a N10 and K26 relay, so I purchased replacements expensively, and it turns out that the fault was actually the wiper motor spring arms, which were full of migrated grease and had worn badly, making bad contact. So I rebuilt the spring arms using some solder, cleaned everything up. The motor now parks beautifully. I haven't yet, but I'm going to strip down this and re-grease it in the way that it's well demonstrated online already. But most of the videos all talk about marking. You can see I've made little marks previously till I worked out how this worked. I don't have any Mercedes-Benz documentation. If anyone knows better than what I'm about to tell you, then please feel free to post in the comments the best way to do it. So the first thing to do, and I've loosened everything so I can demonstrate this, but the first thing to do to set this up is to remove the mechanism and turn on the car and allow that to set back to neutral. So we can do that. Make sure the wipers are off. Okay, so the motor has now moved and that stalk is now in park position. So this sounds like it would be really easy. The problem is that this part, the actual mono wiper, can't be removed from the mechanism apart from in the middle position. So you only know the reference point in park, but you can't take it to bits unless it's in the middle. And that's why we're going to remove the mechanism. There's a circlip and a few other bits in order to do this, actually, if it wasn't for my little demonstration. So if I rotate this, it won't come off. You physically can't get it off. If I move it to the middle, like this, and imagine this is on the car, so horizontally the two mounting points there and there, they're completely horizontal. This is completely horizontal, so when this is vertical, this section, the wiper in the middle, then you will see that this will press off. That can now be removed. So I'm going to move to the bench and resume the video on the bench. So with this in the vise, you can see here this little cutout, which is why the gear won't come out under this lip, apart from with the unit in the fully vertical position, if you like, with the wiper up the screen. And then with this on the bench, you can see this is the wiper moving up and down. You can see this is fully retracted, but a bit like an engine piston arrangement, it has a top dead center. So I'm going to rotate the gear on the back, and as I do, you will see, hopefully, it's tricky, a pendulum thing, look, coming to the middle. So I can change that, and if I just move this gear gently, watch, up, down, stop, 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 starting to go back up. So that stop, 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 stop bit there, I'm turning the gear and there's no movement. That is with that arm. It's very hard to film. With that arm, look, try and get under the light a bit better. Yeah, that arm completely vertical. So with that arm completely vertical there, you're in exactly top dead center. So that will fit in beautifully. And I actually marked a little red dot on the back of the gears, if you imagine that pointing exactly back. And you can see I've set that, and again, it's repeatable. So that's the way that I do that. That means you can refurbish this, grease it, do whatever you want. You can put the cover back on it, and you can put that back in. into there. But the problem is, as we discovered at the front of the car, that you cannot connect the mechanism at the back up to it at that position, because you don't know what that position is on the motor. There is no middle position. So I'm going to show you how I calibrate these, and I'm going to turn this round in order to demonstrate it. Okay, so I've inserted the wiper unit, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it. You've got to imagine this on the car. On a right-hand drive car, this side is park. So it extends, comes to the edge, and then this is the prior setup bit. So what I'm going to do, pull that back until it comes all the way in, like that. And then I'm going to, with the back off, I'm going to look up the back. Difficult lighting again. Let's see if we can help. I'm going to look up the back there. Yeah, you can just about see, I think. And I'm going to set it again so that the pendulum is exactly in the middle. I can't see from there, but I think it is. And then what I do, with that exactly in the middle, and it almost is, you can see my mark that I've done previously. Hang on. The lighting's awful in here, isn't it? Let's just hold that for you. You can see I marked the casting and the actual wiper. The reason I've done that is that once I come to reassemble this and the top is on, you won't be able to see it, so you could do with a mark. Now, in terms of how that looks, let's just again work on the lighting. Okay, not bad, not too bad. So in terms of how that looks, at the middle, obviously fully retracted, comes out to the wipe, the extremities of the wiper, comes back down. Now watch this. As it comes in, if you go beyond that, watch what happens. It comes back out. And you don't want the wiper coming back out in park. You want it to be set so it's in top dead centre. So it comes down, and then the motor transitions and comes back up. So in and out, in and out. Not in, out, in, out. Okay, so it happens that when my marks are there, and incidentally, I think on later models of this, I think Mercedes, well, I'm pretty sure they did, I've seen videos where they put some marks on the castings. I mean, there may be some reference marks, but I've studied this and I can't see any, with the exception of one thing I'll show you shortly. So you eagle-eyed people will note that I've put a mark on the other side. That mark is corresponding that distance. So I've taken that distance because we know this is horizontal in the car. We know this is vertical. It follows that if that's park, then the maximum extension should be the same on the other side. So in other words, as that moves up, when we set this mechanism up, we should see that get to there and then reverse. If it gets any different, like there, we know we've done, or there, we know we've done something wrong. We want to see it get to about there and then reverse. Okay, so in order to fit the mechanism, we need to move this to the park position, which we now know is there. So then we get this, and then what we do is we extend this so it's completely in line, like that. We want that to be in line, and the reason we want that is park, that's as far as it gets. So you want that completely as far as it gets, and then we adjust this hard with one hand, like that, so that we can then fit that on there. Now, that is in park position. Lined up there, we know we're at top dead centre. We know that's in park. That can't move any further. And there is one reference mark, which I had seen. Well, there's two actually, but let me show you. I don't know whether this is real or if I'm making this up. There's a hole here. And there's a hole here. You know, if you had a proper Mercedes-Benz tool, potentially, is it designed so that that fits in there, I don't know. I've no idea what those are for really, but I just noticed that they kind of line up. Ignore my red marks up here. They were made whilst I was trying to learn how this thing actually worked. So, that's it. And as that now rotates, what you will find is, and I'm not going to demonstrate it because I'm going to actually carry on and do this job now for real, but you will find that when you rotate that round, with this in the exactly opposite position, I suppose I could do that for you. I don't want to upset the neutral position now I've set it, but if you remove that and then rotate the wiper to the up position on the other side, so if you set that there, and now set this, you will see, it's tricky, again, one-armed, but there you go. You will see that's now lined up there, and that's completely in the other opposite direction there. And interestingly, that hole now lines up there. That doesn't, because it's in this recess. Again, the holes might be a complete, what's the word for it, red herring, but that is how to do it. So I hope that's useful to somebody. As I say, there's other steps, such as it's tricky to get this off, it's tricky to get this to bits. It is tricky, but as I say, there are other videos that cover cleaning, disassembly and all the rest of it. If anyone's stuck on how to do that, just perhaps leave a message in the comments and I'll try and explain those other bits. There we go. I think we're done. Okay, so we'll go for a quick demo. That is at park, in line with the motor lined up to the red mark under there. Difficult to see because of the shroud that's now in place. And you can see each time it comes back to park. And each time, there we go, passes out like that. So that's a good job now, and I think we can reassemble this onto the car. So this is kind of like an optional extra for compulsive sort of obsessives like me. The wiper is in and working. I've sprayed some water on the screen to demonstrate this, but I'm not entirely happy with the fact that if you see the park position of the wiper on this side, it's about an inch below the level of the windscreen. If I run the wiper and then we go to the other side, if I put it on intermittent, if we go around here, you can see that the wiper is coming down a little bit further than that on that side. And so the question is whether that is one tooth on the spline of the motor. In other words, when the wiper motor is hitting the park segment, as that's coming down and hitting the park segment there, the fact the motor stops running, is it like a lack of inertia because the motor's not running, that's stopping slightly earlier, and because the motor's running on the other side, that inertia is just allowing it to carry on, you know, just like a fraction more to there, because as you see there, I just pushed it and now it's in the same position. So, you know, there is kind of, you know, we're not talking very much across the length of that wiper. That play is nothing. You know, if that was sat kind of there, then that would be the same. So I have actually looked at some images online of R129s with their wipers parked. I've tried to find images of old 129s from the original back in the day sort of thing. And it does look like the right-hand drive cars are indeed ending up with the wipers kind of parked here. And the left-hand drive ones are also doing the same thing. So on a left-hand drive car, the park position on that side seems lower because there's no difference between in the wiper motor setup. It's identical. It's just where you place this on the shaft. So the simple question is, if I strip that down now and move that one spline around, will that, you know, bring this perhaps down to about here, the same on both sides? So will it move up slightly on the other side? And it's probably, I don't know, how much work is it? It's probably half an hour's work to find out. So that's the question. So as a continuation of my kind of geeks version of the video, this has now been removed because I couldn't resist the opportunity to check this. And if you peel back, you can see that that's exactly on my mark. So as far as I'm concerned, that's exactly halfway, and yet even though it's exactly halfway, that ends up parking an inch lower than on the other side. So the test is, so I'm going to waste my time potentially here so you don't have to. I'm going to undo this nut and I'm going to rotate the wiper one notch to the right, which will make it lower down the screen on park. And if that's the case, then that would be the addendum to how to set it up. So start exactly as I showed, but then when you put that on, move it one click to the right to account for the drag, I believe, on stop, if you see what I mean, because when the motor power cuts, I'm saying that it doesn't continue moving, whereas on the other end it continues moving as this mechanism kind of changes direction. That's the theory. Let's give it a go. Okay, so I loosened this off and I've rotated it one notch, but look how far that's moved. That is one notch, and I think at the end that's going to end up being too much. That is literally one notch round on this, so I'm not going to properly tighten it. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to do a quick trial installation and see where that's actually put it. Shouldn't take too long to just quickly test that, so we will do that now. Okay, well, we've got the answer to our question. That's what it looks like at park with that moved round one spline. I've not fully fitted it to the window wiper mechanism or mounts, but it is on the mounts. And the simple answer is, I can now conclusively say that the way that I've described how to do it there is the correct way, and that an R129 right-hand drive should park with the windscreen wiper about here, and a left-hand drive one should wipe to here, and on the other side, the right-hand drive car should wipe down to about here, and on a left-hand drive car it should park there. So if you look at the pictures of a correctly set up left-hand drive car, they'll show lower here than on the other side, and that is just a consequence of the fact that the motor, so if I can zoom in, it won't be ideal to show you here, but the motor is kind of on this angle, which means that the lever arm mechanism is not entirely parallel, and for that reason there's a very slight bias left to right in the setup. I know I'm picky, but I kind of like, I can rest easy now that it's impossible to make that any better than it was. So I have wasted half an hour or so, but if the question was in your mind as it was in mine, now we know the answer. That really is it. I'm going to rebuild this now and put it back together.